There I was, worn out and exhausted, laying on my bed with my eyes wide open, looking up at the ceiling. It was 7 in the morning, and I had just pulled my 5th all-nighter. Yet, all I could think about was that epic win last night. Ouch! I could barely move. My body was numb and everything hurt. All I could feel was the pain and cramps in my body. But at the same time, I was already mentally planning on how I could make it to the next level of my game. It had been 5 years since my father gave me a PlayStation and a football game to go along with it. My parents divorced 2 years earlier. They argued a lot, and I heard them screaming at each other, often when I was in bed trying to sleep. I'd bury myself into my pillows and wait anxiously until the screaming stopped, which would only happen when my dad stormed out of the house. I'm an only child, and so during the weekdays, I would live with my mother, and every other weekend, I would visit my father in a city 2 hours away. He works for a security company, and therefore would often have to work the night shift. He would usually come home around 6 o'clock in the morning, and would sleep in till 12 in the afternoon before we could even spend time together. I didn't have any friends in the area he lived in, and so it would get extremely boring without having anything to do or anyone to see. This all changed when I received my new game. It meant that I had an escape from reality, from my parents and school. I quickly discovered that I was really good, and my urge to become the best striker in the world kicked in. My mother was extremely unhappy with my new hobby. She would often say, "Put the damn controller away. Don't you have any homework to do?" I noticed that I was spending more and more time gaming, but so what? I was still going to the gym. I played football every Saturday with my team. School was going okay. Failed 2 classes, but hey, the teacher said with a little more effort, I'd be able to fix this. However, I kept getting better at the game. I was creating the best teams, selling players, mastering all the techniques, and winning all the matches I played. I downloaded the game onto my phone so that I could play during the breaks at school, and it also meant that I could secretly play in bed without my mother realizing. "Did you not sleep well?" is a question she started asking more frequently as I sat yawning at the breakfast table. I was introduced to the online gaming community through another player. On the website, it said, "Welcome to the family for game addicts." The term addict made me laugh. It can't be that bad, I thought to myself. As time went on, I began meeting more players, all of whom had fake names, such as Orange 5 and Alpha. I decided to call myself Rome02, after the first 2 letters of my favorite footballers, Ronaldo and Messi, and the year that I was born in. I loved meeting all these gamers. I had never had so many friends before. We exchanged playing techniques and kept each other updated on the latest upgrades and trends in the gaming world. Eventually, I slowed down going to football, as well as going to less training sessions, and coming up with excuses not to play on Saturdays. I would tell my mother that I had too much work, but I could tell by her face that she knew I was lying. After failing to attend another training, the coach kicked me off the team. I didn't care. I was involved in much more exciting games with my friends online. I was playing every day for many hours on end to improve my skills. There were days where I was so tired, but the pressure to continue playing kept mounting. The pressure from my mom to stop playing also grew. She started checking on me all the time, sometimes barging into my room without knocking while I was in the middle of a game. We started arguing more and more. One day, she got called into school as my teachers expressed their concern for my distracted behavior and disappointing results. Suddenly, I had found more and more problems. Money. Gaming is expensive, and I didn't have much pocket money. I had already borrowed money to buy the latest PlayStation 4, but I needed more stuff, like a special pair of gaming headphones and an upgraded charger for my controller. I had to find a job, but I didn't have the time. I was saying yes to every invitation to play with my online friends. I simply didn't have time to work. I had to sell my bike as well as an expensive pair of Nikes to get by. One day, my mom caught me trying to take money from her wallet. She was furious and yelled, "What have I done to deserve this? You can go live with your father. Maybe he'll know how to deal with you." So, On my 17th birthday, I moved in with my father in a city where I knew no one and didn't want to know anyone. My dad encouraged me to start a course for computer design. He said, "Why not invest all this time spent gaming into something that you enjoy and something that will actually get you a job in the future?" Initially, this worked really well. I enjoyed the course and was going out with my peers quite regularly. One of the boys asked me if I was interested in moving into a student house with all of them. I said yes immediately. Luckily, my dad was okay with it, and he helped me move into my new room, not knowing all that lay waiting ahead. It all began innocently. One of my housemates organized a game night. I didn't want to go at first, but everyone was persistent, telling me to stop being a loser and to just come and have some fun. We began playing a game called Fortnite. And when they asked me to log in, I impulsively used Rome02 as my player's name. We put on our headsets and began to watch our screens vigilantly. We were dropped on an island and were given the task to eliminate all the other players on the same island. The adrenaline kicked in as the play space started to shrink and our opponents were coming closer. It was clear that my talent hadn't disappeared. In the final game, I was the last one standing against 4 other players. It was super intense, but with a bit of luck, I managed to beat the whole squad and earned my victory royale. I was the winner of the night. The next morning, I woke up with the worst headache ever. I walked over to the fridge to find something to eat, but there was absolutely nothing. Looks like I had to make do with tea and biscuits. Back in my room, I opened up my computer and logged in. I couldn't stop thinking about how fun the game was. The next thing I knew, it was 4 in the afternoon. I hadn't been to college, and I hadn't eaten anything. It was official. I couldn't stop gaming. The days, weeks, months that followed consisted of constant gaming. At one point, I played 2 weeks non-stop. I ignored my headaches and the pain in my shoulders, hands, and fingers. I was consumed by this game. I didn't have time for anyone or anything. I failed my exams and got kicked off of the course I was studying and lost all my student finance. My housemates decided to give my room up to someone who would be more involved with students. I had to leave, but where was there to go? My parents weren't an option. I was too scared to tell them about everything that had happened. I didn't have enough money to find a new room, and as I'd ruined any real friendships I had no one to turn to anymore. It got to the point where I would spend all day gaming at an internet cafe, and at night, I would sleep on the streets. I wanted nothing more than to go back to the time where I was living with my mom and when I was clean. I wanted to play football again and go back to having a normal life. In all honesty, I just wanted to be a kid again. I was scrolling through the telephone numbers on my phone and came across the number of my old football coach, John. He had always been someone I could go to when my parents were fighting. He had been nice to me and listened when I was upset. I contemplated calling. Would he remember me? Would he forgive me? Would he even care to help? John speaking. His kind voice immediately comforted me. He was extremely straightforward. He told me, "I can only help you if you promise me you are willing to give up gaming." And, he continued, "You have to tell your parents and allow them to be part of your recovery." It's been 6 months now. I still visit a rehabilitation clinic once a week that helps people who struggle with addiction. Through the help I received here, I was able to overcome my addiction to gaming. The first month, they had arranged that I was still able to go to school during the day, but I had to sleep at the clinic at night. I was allowed 1 hour of supervised gaming, and as the days went on, this became less. I was also prescribed medication to try to help me fight the constant urge to game. At the start of my recovery, it was extremely difficult, and every day was a struggle. For the longest time, I had depended on gaming for my happiness. So when they took it away from me, I felt helpless, like a child whose favorite toy had been snatched away. It took months before I felt my depression start to go away, and my self-control begin to return. I realized that I wasn't going to be someone that would be able to game once in a while, so I decided to stop entirely. I've moved back in with my mother, and have started playing football again with my old team. John lets me help him train the young kids at the football club. There are a lot of them that talk about gaming more than football. I hope I can help them so that they don't ever have to experience the same problems that I did.